something that they felt has been a weakness on their part has been their pulling. So you can maybe see a great example of that to get things started. And the significance of a pull is huge and often really overlooked by other teams.
Yeah, you don't really want to be giving Alex Latamatis a few extra metres down the field to start their offence from, do you?
No, he's a powerful thrower, and giving him central field position as well, really dangerous. And he gets it back off Evans on that far side. Those two will be behind the disc a lot as they find Mark McClay. He's one of the younger players on this team. Recently picked on the Goannas under-24 men's side for Australia, who went over to New Zealand and won gold. So clearly very handy and being trusted to play offense on this team. As Blakely gets his hands on it for the first time, and his distinctive inside-out forehand will find McClay in the end zone. And Colony Mutiny get themselves on the board 1-0.
What a surprise, I say, with lots of sarcasm in my voice as we see Blakely just steadying the ship for them then. That was a very easy hold for Colony, wasn't it? And I think that's what they're going to want to be playing for the duration of this game, is making all of their offensive points look really easy.
It's a great example of working it up the open side when things break down, centering, swinging, and then hitting a beautiful break throw. Mark McClay times his cut to perfection, and Peter Blakely only too happy to deliver it into his arms for an opening goal from the young Goanna.
And look, I think it's a testament to this Colony team in terms of how they've performed so far this tournament, given they've had a couple of big outs. Mike Neild, obviously a massive presence, not only on the field but off, is out with a broken hand. And to be fair, they haven't really felt his loss the way that I thought they would have, and I think that's an amazing, that really goes to them talking about, you know, being all one in comradeship. That's one of the things that they've talked about for this season, as we see Andrew Jackson with the disc. Oh, he was looking early, wasn't he, Bill Foreman? Back to AJ. Lots of pressure. See Foreman again. Little inside. Picked up by Francis, an ex-Colony player. Oh, another strong pick up there by Matthews Hunter. Lots of pivoting there from Brown. Oh!
And that's a simple throwaway, miscommunication with Jackson.
Throwaway to Gann. He'll take those any day of the week. Wee pops it up to White with the distinctive cleats. Back to Gann. Again to Wee. They're just really moving it efficiently, aren't they, Colony? Which is what they want to be doing. Back to Gann. We have a score, but we have a pick call beforehand on Palais.
And it will come back, and I mean...
He gives a quick nod, acknowledges that that's a fair call.
Massive defensive pressure from Colony to get this turn, and massive composure to work it to here. Not too sure how much of a discussion will be had.
I think it's just about the distance that Palais had in terms of where he needs to be. And pretty close, looks like the answer that's been agreed upon as a little hand tap happens. Again with the disc, centres to Wee, backing. Oh, Wee was almost too quick there. Big shot from AJ. That's going to be too big though. That's a wasted opportunity for Fyshwick.
Maybe a little rush of blood to the head after the exhilaration of the turnover. AJ just picks up and punts. Francis looked like he was setting to come back under, and that hesitation step meant that he wasn't able to chase that disc down. Having said that...
You could see Wee, couldn't you, just going already before he'd actually completed the give, and that was the problem there. Seb Hardy, disc in hand, moves it across to Reed, back to Gann, shapes to throw big, pulls it back to Reed.
It's worth noting we've got a crosswind coming away from camera. We'll see how that impacts on these players.
Okay. Oh, we had to think about it then. Back to Reed. Wee again, he's been, now he shoots, and that's probably the right timing because look at the speed of Alex Gann. You do not want to let him get goal side with a bit of pace on because he just pops on the afterburners and he runs that down easily in the end.
He's just so fast, isn't he? You see, as soon as he gets a sniff of some kind of separation, he cranks it up a gear, turns on the burners, and leaves Saxon Brown in his dust, which isn't easy to do. Brown's pretty quick in his own right, but Alex Gann, some serious top-end pace, and Mark Wee only too happy to deliver in terms of a nice backhand assist from about 35 yards.
And I like what I saw from Wee there. He had a couple of opportunities earlier in that point where potentially that long shot was on, but little bit high risk. And he's held back and he's picked absolutely the best option that he could with Alex Gann, big separation. Colony doing it easy so far.
Yeah, it's great discipline to resist those kind of tempting 50-50 shots and shows the kind of discipline and trust that this team has in their ability to recycle and not rush into taking a 60% option. They'll wait for the 85, 90, 95% chances to come because they have faith that their cutters will provide them eventually. That's exactly what happened there. Fyshwick's offense, giving up a break. They'll keep the same 7 out there. See if they can get the job this time. Jackson to Foreman on this near side. And he'll look to Shellard downfield. He has Jackson going up line. He'll put it out in front. Plenty of touch, but not enough. Jackson nursing a bit of a ankle injury that he has sustained at SMO. Only recently come back from that. Maybe a step or two slower than he is at his best.
Yeah, because out of the hand, that looked good from Shellard, didn't it?
It did, and it was into the wind as well. It gave it a touch extra sit, but even so, Jackson can't reel it in. Now Fyshwick plays some defense again. Colony break to this near side to Varley. Bill Foreman gets in front of Tom Butler, the two Galana teammates. Go shoulder to shoulder, and it's Foreman that gets the best of it. Jackson 12 metres out. Not a lot opening up for him. Has to go inside to Francis. He does well to hold on as he goes to turf. About 8 metres out. Finds Brown coming across the front.
That is a nice little start for Fyshwick to open their account, isn't it?
It's a lovely way for them to get on the board. Obviously, still giving up the disc, not that clinical offense that they'll need to find, but maybe a product of these conditions as the wind really starts to pick up.
What a contest there that we saw. Like you said, the teammates coming in, and in that situation, we really saw Foreman getting the best of it, didn't we?
We certainly did. And then a nice inside throw initiated by Jackson. Not a lot of cuts being provided upfield, but he just throws to a space where only his offensive player is going to be able to get there. Francis falling to one side does well. So we're at 2-1, Mutiny getting that early break, but Fyshwick offense starting to hit their stride, though there's clearly still a few wrinkles to be ironed out if they're to stay in this one. Jackson in particular looking a little shaky out there. He'll have to step up if Fyshwick are to find success this game.
Yep, needs to run through that Achilles injury, unfortunately, to have a big impact for his team.
I asked him before this one how he was feeling about that, if he'd take a few painkillers to play through, and he didn't believe in that, and he said he was just going to suck it up and play on.
Well, we'll see how that plays out as we see Ash Evans, disc in hand, new recruit to the team this year from Melbourne. He's added some absolute firepower to their team. Blakely, disc in hand.
Oh, that Martles went deep.
That is a good defense from Fyshwick, though. This is the first time that it's felt like there's been a little bit of pressure for Colony. Stewart pops it up deep. McLeay again, geez, he's got some afterburners too, hasn't he? A little bit of flair at the end there.
He does.
Make sure of it.
Tough customer to mark is Mark McLeay. You can see why. Beautiful timing and great speed. Makes for a deadly combination.
I love that little bit of flash. It's impressive.
And that's another one of those Blakely to McLeay connections. That's scored them 2 of their 3 goals this game. Clearly got some nice chemistry between those two. Jez Barron getting toasted deep. He was busy trying to help out elsewhere. Needed to be focused on his assignment. And you can't give Colony cutters that kind of separation heading to the end zone and not expect them to take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So as you say, Carly, there were moments there where we started to see Fyshwick's defence crank it up, started to apply some pressure.
Yeah, look, if they can apply that sort of pressure, I think it's going to give them some rewards.
But they've got to do it consistently.
Yeah, see the pull come down from Pele. Jackson, disc in hand, sizing up his options, telling the players where he wants them to be. Nice big jump up there from Brown. Jackson having to work hard with Gann marking him. Again, as we see Foreman come in. Off to Francis, who launches. Whoa! Okay. Hardy gets himself in the right spot. And they're off again. Gann, disc in hand. It's Pele brings it in authoritatively. Hardy, disc in hand. Moves it to Wee. Held up now by the Fyshwick team. Lovely throw through to Hardy. This is better from Fyshwick, isn't it? Just making the Colony boys have to work, and that is the result of some really strong defence from Fyshwick.
Yeah, amping up the pressure every pass, and the increasing wind as well playing a part. Just reducing those margins for error, and that upline pass just 6 inches too far for Hardy to get a hand on. Matthews Hunter looks for Shellard without any hesitation, but Alex Gann, we've spoken about him, he's just too quick.
He just peeled off there, didn't he? Saw that coming, sat up in the wind. And now Colony with another chance. They'll want to be a little less wasteful this time. Burns. Get back to Pele. Out to Gann. Gann, a huge pickup for Colony this season.
There's a couple of players that have made that transition across from bench in the last couple of years, and they're big pieces of Colony's success in that time.
Yeah. Lockie White looks a lot better than he did a couple of days ago after suffering some heat stroke. We see Hardy again with the disc. IO, but read very nicely by Matthews Hunter. And we begin the dance again with AJ putting it up to Foreman, who launches. That's a better, that was a better option in terms of the separation, but just didn't quite have the touch on the throw. This wind, we saw it in the last game between Capital Punishment and Factory. It's a little bit more trying than I think what the conditions have been for the rest of the weekend. So we've always had a bit of a breeze, but this one's actually starting to have a bit of an impact on some of the throws.
Definitely the strongest wind we've had, and maybe it's still taking these throwers some time to calibrate. As you say, great option. Plenty of separation there. Donaldson had gotten free going deep. Bill Foreman's flick, a little too fast and flat, turned over and trailed away.
Be interesting to see if both teams can make that adjustment on the touch on their throws to adapt to these conditions. Still plenty of options to take big punts both directions, like the wind's not that strong.
Oh, certainly these throwers of these calibre will still be able to make the distance and throw the throws. It's a case of calibrating their throws to compensate for the wind.
That's exactly right. Hooper pops it back to White. Not sure that that's the throw he'd take if he had his time again. A little bit over Mark Wee, and AJ says, we'll have a timeout, thanks. This has been a long point, and it has. It's been the longest point of the game so far, and I don't think that's a great sign for either team.
No, it's turning into a bit of a slugfest, and unfortunately for Fyshwick, most of the long points have been on their offensive line, which is exactly the opposite of what you want. If you're a defensive group of players, you're happy to grind out a long point, wear down the opposition's offense. If you're Fyshwick, you want to be punching in quick holds every time, and that's not what's happening for Fyshwick right now.
And look, having said that, I think Colony will be disappointed that their defensive line hasn't been able to capitalise on a couple of opportunities, because you work so hard to get the block. You build up the pressure,
That's
and
right.
to see it turn over again and give the other team another chance.
Oh, it's devastating. Yeah.
Frustrating.
And they've had it in great positions as well. Lockie White had it probably 6-7 metres out of the end zone on this high side in the wind as the wind blows away from camera. That's the exact best position on the field to have the disc. And they threw it away with a maybe slightly questionable high release forehand into traffic.
Questionable's a great word to use there.
Maybe a bit kind, but we've seen a number of players struggle with heat stroke, as you mentioned. Lockie White, one of them, 2 days ago, getting overhydrated, I believe. There's a term for that.
Yep, hyponatremic. He didn't have enough salts left in his body, so off to the hospital he went. But
got refilled and he's back on the field.
Yeah.
Fyshwick look like they're sticking with what's been their typical look from this line. Jackson, Matthews Hunter, and now Francis back in the handler space. Foreman getting downfield a bit more.
Yeah, setting up in their Horo set. And like you said, Max, they're going to really want to try and make it look a bit easier off this start.
They haven't been taking terrible options. It's more the execution that's been hurting them. That's just a case of dialing in that focus.
Francis quickly off to AJ. Oh, and he launches. 2-on-1 situation. Oh, Palais is huge.
And Sam Shellard gets beaten in the air. He can do nothing about it.
That is a Shellard sandwich. And Colony launch. Wow. Look at the motor on Gann. Thought that was going to be too far, but not much is too far. And then he just so casually pops it up. And we see Burns with the score. Initially I thought that throw from Seb Hardy might have been a little over ambitious, but I forgot.
Far too far out in front of my mind.
I forgot what he was throwing to.
You got to know your receiver, and he certainly did there.
Pure speed of Alex Gann.
The man's got pace.
And he doesn't even look like he's blowing too hard as he comes off the field, does he?
No, what an athlete. He's clearly been putting in his time on the track and in the gym in the off-season, paying dividends right now. When your throwers can lead you that far out in front and you still track it down, it makes the rest of your team's lives just so much easier. Yeah,
and look, beautiful use of the wind there as well by Hardy. We saw that, well, you can probably hear the wind's actually picking up again through our mics, and it just sat up beautifully.
Yeah, he was throwing from that low side back into the wind a bit, so it gave it just a little bit extra float.
Yep.
Alex Gann made good use of it, tracking it down just outside the end zone, and then the cheeky scooper over the top to get Mutiny their second break of the game as they now sit pretty at 4-1. Fyshwick really struggling to get their offense flowing. It'll be Dave McManus receiving this one as Fyshwick put their D-line out on the field to give their offensive players a rest. And now Matt Daly, disc in hand, will dump to McManus. Conrad Wallace gets the disc. We've got a pick call. Wallace, a 2016 Dingo, but hasn't played a lot of Ultimate Frisbee since. He's been living in the UK. This is his first tournament back in the orange and black. And while his fitness, he says, might be a little bit underdone, he seems to still have a good sense of where and when to cut.
Does he have a good sense of fashion though, Max? I'm seeing the bucket hat, which to me is a new look for Conrad.
Look, he may have lost some fitness, but his fashion sense hasn't changed. He's been making some interesting choices in that department for many years. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of this one, but some things never change from old K-Wall. Speaking of bucket hats, Matt Daly fakes the inside backhand, but can't get it out. Instead, centres to Sambridge. Not a lot generated. Having to work very hard, Fyshwick. And Wallace.
Oh, that's a hospital pass.
Certainly was. Throws up a hanger, has 4 or 5 bodies underneath, and no surprises there. The disc goes to ground, as more often than not happens with a throw like that.
Yeah, and look, we saw again in the previous game, we saw that flick throw on that side of the field, blading out with the wind a lot. So have to be careful, I think, with that option.
And Black shapes for the big backhand. Colony doing so well to immediately move the disc to this high side of the field, showing their discipline and awareness of the conditions. Black, cross field. They do well to just keep that inside the field. Noel. And Black again, marked by Gibson. And centres. Fyshwick not able to contain the break throws. Mutiny breaking the mark at will, but that pass a little wayward. The wind getting underneath it. Matt Daly links up with Wallace.
Oh, no.
And wayward pass from Wallace.
You just can't do that at this level and not expect to get punished for it.
Not in this short field situation. Young Tom Butler picks up the disc and finds Bennett, who leaves his feet to hold on. Marked by Sandbridge. Two Goanna's teammates going man-to-man. As I said earlier, Mutiny break the mark again back into the centre, giving themselves prime position. Fyshwick's defence not really able to get much traction in that department, but Matthew Svardos sticks out of hand and gets connection on that, just enough.
Well, I spoke too early. They haven't punished them, and I think that's an opportunity lost for Colony there, and that really would have put a bit of a nail in it for Fyshwick, I think, if Colony to be able to go up 5-1 at this point in the game. So they'll be hoping that their defensive line that's playing offense can have some success there. That's a nice put.
Yeah, McManus going crossfield to Barron into a lot of space. Got a stall out perhaps called on the throw. And they'll have a bit of discussion about whether McManus got that disc out, but a lovely use of space. And in this win, recognising that it's a more feasible throw than it might be usually.
I'm doing my best to lip read from this distance, but I suspect what McManus is saying, that the stall count, as it often does, sped up a little bit towards the end, and there was a bit of a 9-10 situation going on.
We've all been there. We've all seen it happen. Steve Baker, our chief game advisor for the tournament, will signal that it is a contested stall. This will come back to McManus, stalling 8. So he'll have 2 seconds to do something. He might just opt to do the same.
Young Felix Watson on the mark, first-year player with Colony. Manly boy, along with Tom Butler, making their mark. Shout out to the Manly club.
Producing plenty of talent. This comebacks in. As I suspected, McManus goes exactly the same option. And the result is even more spectacular than the first. Jez Barron.
Great grab by Barron.
Obliges with the aerial. Daly now, back on this high side. Sandbridge through the hands. Throw a little behind him, but he's better than that.
So much promise there for the Fyshwick boys, wasn't it, after that sort of dubious stall situation. And now...
Oh! Dylan Bennett punishes the other direction, going up and over Callum Sandbridge.
Oh, Sandbridge is going to be feeling a bit sorry for himself after that point, isn't he? That's kind of your reverse of a double happiness, sadly, for the young fella.
Double sadness for the young guy. Drops the disc and then gets posterized going the other way.
Sad face for him, but I'm sure he'll come back, getting a few teammates around him as he walks off the field, which is nice to see. But wow, that was some grab from Bennett, wasn't it?
Oh, huge, huge. As we had another look at it, that's ruthless in the response from Colony. I know it had been a multi-turnover point, but still totally willing to shoot deep. And Dylan Bennett does well. Sandbridge was closing the distance quickly.
Interesting there, Max. I noticed as Bennett came off, and you may have seen his celebration was a little exuberant, shall we say.
Any thoughts on that?
Mike Neal just approached him and had a little quiet word in his ear. And I didn't hear what they said, but I suspect that it may have been something around, you've done very well, son, with that catch. Let's keep it respectful.
Yep. Do your talking with your play, perhaps. Mike Neal, as we said, big part of this team and remains so despite not being able to take the field. Broke his hand not long ago.
In a completely innocuous incident, I might add, Max.
Yeah, tell us the story of how Mike Neal is now right in the sideline.
My understanding is that he was at a camp, a school camp, that he was helping out at, and he was running along and somehow got his hand caught in his own pocket and broke it. So no impact with the ground, no traditional layouts that we see as we see a quick turnover there. Ash Evans in the right place. Lots of 1-2s back with Gann. And this, if it completes, is going to be a very easy score for the Colony boys.
And it completes, it does. Reece Stewart just going every other after a quick intercept of an upline pass looking for Jackson in the dump space. Fyshwick's offense all at sea at the moment, and Colony Mutiny doing a mountain of work on defense. And it's paying off. They're up 6-1. They've rattled off 3 breaks in a row.
Wow. That was impressive, wasn't it?
That was just a great display of taking away the downfield options, recognising Fyshwick had turned and engaged the dump, and then clamping in on that in a great poach block. And Fyshwick don't really have an answer so far.
They don't, do they?
We haven't seen them change up their offensive look structurally yet. It's just been their horizontal stack. Perhaps now's the time to do something different. Clearly what they've been doing up to this point isn't working for them with a deficit like this. But they've got the same 7 out there that's been playing offense all game long.
Gann with the pull. Fierce Hunter picks it up to AJ. To Francis and back again to AJ. He has a look, pulls it back in. I think that's probably smart. And then Francis has a look. Oh, wow.
Sam Shellard goes up big.
Shellard, I thought that he had misread that initially.
So did I.
He had to change his line at the last minute.
And he's called a foul. This matchup, Powley got the best of it last time with a big block. This time Shellard definitely got a hand. Not a whole lot of contact.
I feel like he had already not caught that when the contact happened.
I have to agree, Kylie.
Just looking at the replay there.
But we've got an uncontested foul call. Powley thought differently. So Shellard will regain possession.
That's it. Obviously, the players don't have the benefit of the replay. Shellard, disc in hand. Doesn't have a lot of options. Pops it out to Foreman. Oh, that is a massive block by Hooper.
Huge.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, that throw should never have gone up. It was never open. But Hooper, he'd be patting himself on the back for that, wouldn't he?
He'll be happy. I mean, you're right. Saxon Brown never had more than maybe an inch at best of separation. Hooper was in his pocket the whole way, but he delivers when the throw does come. Colony's centering pass.
Risky.
Oh, Callahan country! Oh, that was an opportunity for something special that may have inspired some resurgence from Fyshwick.
Donaldson. Almost, but now they do it.
Saxon Brown leaves his feet.
Yeah, that time he had separation. Made it even more so with the big leap.
Not sure if it was totally required, but he wanted to be sure of it.
I was about to say, looks like Fyshwick's going to do it the easy way. But no. They really wanted to make him work a little bit harder, didn't they?
And make him work they did. But they get their goal and start to settle their ship. Give their defensive line a chance to get out there and start building the pressure. Obviously, they've dug themselves a hole, and it'll be their defensive line that has the task of getting them back out of it. And they'll have to start now. Jackson doing well to break the mark there with a nice backhand. And Brown obliging with that first goal. You see the power of getting to the break side, something that Mutiny has, at least so far, been a lot more adept at accessing than Fyshwick has. See whether Fyshwick's defence can tighten up on that a little bit, put a bit more pressure as Sandbridge sends the pull down.
All right, it's a good pull, plenty of hang time, and it means that the Fyshwick boys have a chance to get right on the mark off the bat. Oh, shaping is Ladamados. Back to Stewart, he shapes as well. There's a lot of shaping going on.
So much shape.
Blakely. Okay, we've got McLeay in the middle there. Oh!
And Dan Hellick-Smith swats it out of the air.
Wow. Ladamados not thrilled that option came to him. But here we see Fyshwick with an opportunity to get one back. Hellick-Smith pops it up there to McManus. McManus looking for options. That's tight.
And they'll find Daly.
But that's it.
Fyshwick
Daly,
get a break back.
listen to the noise from the Fyshwick boys now. This is the first time we've heard any noise out of them this game.
Spirits are up. And they have a bit more belief. Seeing themselves get a break like that, earn themselves a block, and then play some, probably the nicest patch of offense we've seen from either of their lines this game.
Yeah.
And put that one in. Still plenty to do, though.
Look, and all about being in the right place at the right time for that defence, but I think McLeay very casual there. Of course, no doubt that you want to try and find Ladamados on the field. You can't blame him for that. But the casual nature of the little pop pass.
And maybe a case of getting a little bit fixated, as you say, on Ladamados. You know, obviously he's the centrepiece of this offense.
Yep.
Obviously he's the guy that you're going to look to get the disc into the hands of. But, you know, every cut still has to be respected as a normal cut. And if it's not on, it's not on. Doesn't matter who you're trying to throw the disc to. And just in that case, Hellick-Smith was just on his hip the whole way. That pass was never available.
Yeah. And as you saw earlier in the point, a lot of the Colony players looking for that downfield option as you'd expect them to, but reeling it in when they're seeing that it's not there. So a little bit of ill discipline there cost them the break.
And a fumble on the pull reception will make Colony have to really work hard to get this out of their own end zone. Gibson will be hassling Ladamados the whole way. And Mark McLeay looks to provide a big under on this break side, but can't get it. Colony Mutiny still deep in their end zone.
Bail out there from Blakely.
Mark McLeay left all alone. That's not what you want to do with someone that's caught 2 goals. Ladamados in the centre. Still in his own end zone. That's 4 or 5 passes from Mutiny. And now they finally into the field proper. Blakely down this break side, finds Evans. He has McLeay going deep again. Barron can't give him that much separation. He's been punished before, and he will be punished again.
Wow. Great shot, Ash Evans. Not unhappy that he's been picked up by the Sydney Suns this year.
No, you've got to be happy when he's playing like this, making right choices and delivering beautiful throws. Beautiful throws from Ash Evans. But something I do want to highlight, Mark McLeay, that's his hat-trick in terms of goals so far. I mean, he may not be the biggest name yet, but he's clearly working on it.
Oh, he's on fire, isn't he?
He certainly is.
I mean, we chipped him for that throw to Ladamados, but that's pretty much the only black mark on his record this game, isn't it?
And plenty of good marks next to his name as well. 3 goals so far. I'm sure there'll be a couple more to come. Mutiny 7-3 up. And Fyshwick's offense back on the field. Doesn't matter how good their defense plays, their offense has to score if they want to get back in this one.
That's it. All right. And we move on to the middle part of this game. Colony with an opportunity here, if they break, to take half. Definitely what they'd be aiming for. As we see the pull from Reed. Down into the hands of Matthews Hunter. Oh, touch on that from Gann.
Oh.
Oh, hold on.
Bill Foreman looks very unhappy, clutching his hand, goes to turf. That's not a good sign for Fyshwick. Clearly in a lot of pain. Not sure if he
off immediately.
Connected with White on the follow-through of that throw. I'm not sure if we can get another look at what happened. Seemed relatively innocuous. She's throwing in a pretty nice inside backhand, but
May have been some contact immediately after, but he's on the sideline in some discomfort, that's for sure. We have Jackson with the disc.
And Donaldson and Mark Wee get all tangled up in the center of the field. Not sure quite how that happened.
Both on the ground. Oh,
Mark Wee's.
Now we've got Wee hobbling off. It's not a good result.
It's not. And Mark Wee's been a central piece of their defensive unit all weekend long. If he can't retake the field, that'll be a big loss for them.
Hopefully it's just a case of him needing to walk that off.
He's replaced by Justin Hooper on the field.
Oh, big bid there from Palais. Francis manages to hold on to it. Jackson sizing up his options. Oh, looked for a long time for his options. Takes the IO break. Big foot block from Gann.
Alex Gann having a hell of a game so far, offensively and defensively. Totally denies Jackson that throw.
Lovely break there. Blakely, skin hand. Just waiting to see what presents itself. Gann offers a nice big wide cut, spreads it wide. Over to Hooper. Little pop up to Blakely, who looks wide, scubas, sits it up, but so much space for Alex Gann. And even though that was a bit of a double helix scuba, there was so much space for Gann. He could sit there and wait for it.
Huge margin for error on that throw when your player's that open. Alex Gann really just getting the better of Jackson at that point. He got a foot block on him and then left him in his dust going back down the other way.
Just like that, Colony take halftime.
8-3, dominating fashion from Colony in the first half. Fyshwick just looking like they're in all sorts, no real response. So, as the players take a drink and a break, so will we, but don't go anywhere as we bring you plenty more action from the Australian Ultimate Championships. And welcome back to the Australian Ultimate Championships. It's the men's quarter-final here in Townsville, Queensland. I'm Max Stenstrom. I'm joined by Kylie O'Brien. We've had a pretty one-sided first half with Colony Mutiny just leaving Fyshwick in the dust so far. Canberra Fyshwick's offense hasn't been able to make it happen just yet. One bright spot, of course, Bill Foreman's been a real powerhouse as per usual, but just haven't quite been able to find their rhythm, find their spacing, and hit their stride. They will start this second half on offense, though. Opportunity to close the gap just a little. Got a few injury updates coming out of halftime. Mark Wee got tangled up with Ash Donaldson in that final point, and he's now cleats off. He said if it was a grand final, he'd still be on the field, but opting to play it safe at this crucial stage in the tournament.
Look, I think that's smart. I mean, we'll see how this half plays out, but certainly Colony's only ever been under some sporadic pressure from Fyshwick at this point, so I think for Mark to sit out the rest of this game makes sense. As we see Matthews Hunter with the disc in hand. Oh, touch on that from Seb Barr, but AJ holds on to it. Launches to Francis, but this is another, oh, Ben Powley grabs another one. He has been huge in the air, but
almost gives it straight back.
Almost gives it straight back. That's a brave pickup by Hardy. Knew he was running into traffic, kept his eyes on the disc. Hardy's going to have to work. Jeez, they're making him work his teammates, but that was just beyond his outstretched hand there. And unfortunately, we see Reid not able to connect with Hardy, and Fyshwick find themselves with a second chance.
Find Jackson on that far side.
Oh, Powley does enough.
Powley's been everywhere defensively for Colony Mutiny this game.
He really has, hasn't he? And I think Hodson just got sucked in to watching Powley there, thinking that he was going to get it. Turns out Powley missed. Hodson would have had a bid on that, but it stopped. Hardy popping it back there. Now we see Bennett with a disc in hand. Powley back to Reid. Reid's working hard there. Powley again. Bennett getting involved. Seeing more undercuts from him now. Picked up comfortably by Powley. Hardy. Hardy's looking. We've got a pick call though, so play holds up for a moment.
Colony Mutiny, we've spoke about it earlier, but it's just really evident in this point. Able to use the width incredibly well and break the marks that Fyshwick's putting on. Their force is almost irrelevant at this point in terms of dictating where Colony Mutiny can play their offense.
And what you want to see, look, there's Felix. There we see Felix Watson. First year play for Colony, renowned for his speed, picking up a disc in the end zone, but that play was made possible because of the discipline of the Mutiny team, keeping the disc on this upwind sideline, making the throwing options way more plentiful for Seb Hardy. And that was an easy decision for him to make with Watson, plenty of separation.
And credit to Hardy, that's not an easy throw, going around the mark and up line at the same time, but he certainly makes it look simple. And Watson does well to time his cut, give him plenty of acre ridge to throw into. And Mutiny open the first half the way they finished this, open the second half the way they finished the first, in dominating fashion. Now 9-3 up, really in control of this game. And it doesn't feel like Fyshwick know what to do in response.
Well, the first thing they've got to do is have a nice, smooth offensive point. They need to be able to establish some offensive fluency to start to feel good about their ability to hold. I can worry about their defense after that. But for now, the biggest challenge for them is that they're really just not able to have those smooth starts.
They haven't been able to. You're absolutely right. Just retaining possession so crucial. And that's something that they've struggled with. They've pulled the trigger probably a few too many times going long. Sometimes it looks like it's out of frustration because they're not able to generate meters consistently downfield. Wallace will get the disc moving as he finds Sandbridge on this high side. Sandbridge, who's had a great tournament for this team so far, been pretty quiet this game. Wallace comes high side to Shellard. And we get a pick call. Fyshwick looking a little nicer at this point so far, at least. Sandbridge at the back of stack in prime position to make that first move. And Shellard will tap the disc back in.
Oh, lots of pressure.
And a shot from Callum Sandbridge down this high side of the field. Dave McManus will get there. That's a very small window that he was throwing into, and he nails it. Fyshwick get one on the board despite defensive efforts from Liam Varley.
That was a great chase by Varley, wasn't it? He really was closing that gap, but there was just too much space to work with. Getting word from the sideline that Liam's nickname's the Weasel. I'm hoping that's in reference to how fast he is rather than to his perhaps poor personality traits.
I'm sure it's to do with his speed and with his sneakiness on the field and nothing to do with him as a person. Dave McManus managed to weasel himself a goal at that point, and he'll stay on the field for Fyshwick. I know a number of these players from both teams have got their names in the hat for some of the senior team selections. And I think it's something that I know a number of players step up when they see the selectors on their sidelines.
Yeah, that's true.
See how much that impacts how teams play, whether it plays into chemistry if one player feels like they need to dominate a little bit more than they do usually. And that pull, maybe unclear whether it was in or out. No signals.
Well, it's a great pull then, isn't it? As we see, Ladamados, familiar figure with the disc in hand, telling his troops where he wants them to be.
And a zony look from Fyshwick this point, finally mixing up their defensive looks.
I like that. You see Dow moving it through. Ladamados back with disc in hand. Stewart back to Ladamados. Just slowly working their way up the field, not looking like they're under too much pressure, but certainly for this defensive look from Fyshwick slowing them down, which is probably a good thing. Evans, Blakely now working so hard to keep give and go, getting in front of that disc. Black to Ladamados. Now they're just outside the end zone, so despite having to make a lot more passes, it hasn't been too difficult for them. Blakely back to Ladamados, and that was too easy in the end, wasn't it?
It was, and I think something that we saw there from Fyshwick, obviously they started in their zone look and they transitioned to match, but they transitioned in a moment where Colony were through the
march,
wall.
Yeah.
They weren't in control when they made that transition, and it allowed a number of free passes for Colony, put them in a great position.
That really hurt them, didn't it, when they made those significant marches up the field. Now, just a sideline note here, Max. Just to revisit the bucket hat of Conrad Wallace from earlier.
Oh, yeah?
And the reason I do that is because there's been a bit of kerfuffle on the sideline.
Tell me about it.
Mike Neal's here obviously supporting his Colony team from the sideline. And
tell me about his headwear.
look, he's got the wide-brimmed hat,
Okay.
which I think, you know, is something it's the Colony hat. But from what I can see on the sideline there, he is very much not a fan of the bucket hat wear of Conrad Wallace.
Really?
I think there was a bit of hitting of the hat off the head.
Wow.
And telling him words to the effect of, "You're a disgrace."
You're a disgrace. That means something coming from Mike Neal.
It does. So it's gotten a little heated on the sidelines here, but back to the action. We have another pull that's gone out. I'm quite surprised by the number of pulls that haven't landed in here. I know we've talked about the wind picking up a lot. Still, I think these guys would be expecting better of themselves to be able to land these pulls in, wouldn't you?
They would. I mean, we're not talking about Thursday night Div 3 League here. We're talking about quarterfinals, Division 1 Nationals. You'd expect pulls to be landing in the field.
Land the pulls in the field, boys.
It's just such an advantage to be able to start your offense 20 metres up the field in the centre with time for your structures to set up.
That's it.
And their benefit from that is a really lovely first undercut by Bill Foreman, and just gets things moving beautifully. Francis with the disc now in the centre. Foreman again, going every other downfield.
He's been really important for them, hasn't he, Foreman?
He has, and he's got that great combination. He's a massive aerial threat, and so players are really worried about that, and they take away that option from him. But he's just so content driving the offense under, as he does for this Fyshwick team so often.
Meanwhile, unfortunate overshot of Francis sees another turn.
Oh, Sam Shellard.
Gets one back.
Pally's been winning that matchup all game long, and Shellard, I feel, showing that he can mix it with him.
He's decided, not this time.
No,
Mr.
gets one
Pally.
back. But Fyshwick will have to go the full 75 yards again as the big D from Shellard knocks the disc a few extra metres. See if things repeat themselves.
Again! You just saw him size that up, bait it almost, and then pounce. Oh!
Oscar Francis with the bidding point block on Ben Pally.
Pally almost a little too casual with that step out without a real time mark on him, wasn't he?
Talk about seeing it coming. Both Alex Gann and Oscar Francis were reading the future there.
Wow, they were setting themselves up for some highlight reels.
Now Donaldson struggles to find Matthews Hunter. Hunter caught dancing a little bit in that dump space. Alex Gann, he won't make a mistake because he finds Seb Hardy at the back of the end zone. It's 10-4 to Mutiny.
Well, again, we find ourselves with an interesting point there. A pull that lands out, which should really have given Fyshwick a big advantage.
And I mean, it did mostly. They played some really nice offense until they didn't.
On the end, and then a couple of pretty impressive defensive plays.
Both ways. Shellard got a big one.
Gann with his sneaky little poach off into the lane.
And then Francis with a huge point block, bidding to his right.
I mean, look, the action's all there. It's exciting to watch, but it's not quite going the way that the Fyshwick boys would like the points to be scoring at the moment.
No, it feels hotly contested, but
it
feels like the inevitable is that Colony will come through, and they're certainly looking that way at the moment.
11-4 now.
And I think what we saw there is a great example of a team adapting on defense. So in that first setup off the brick, Matthews Hunter hit Bill Foreman on an under in a pretty similar situation to what happened the second time round, except the second time round, Alex Gann knew what was coming.
Yeah.
He stepped up off his player that he was marking in the dump space, just jumped into the lane at the last moment and got a really easy intercept. Whereas Fyshwick not adapting, not recognising the change. Helig Smith finds Barron as Fyshwick's defensive line now, playing some offense. Daly will hit Sandbridge. Offense looking a little more fluid from Fyshwick now. Goes crossfield to Barron with the big swing. He's in a mile of space. Helig Smith back to Barron, marked by Varley. And he'll go back to Helig Smith in the centre. And he'll break the mark. McManus, 2 or 3 metres out, has Svardal smearing across the front. Thinks about the flick, goes fat side to Barron, into space. Can Jez Barron get there? Slightly loses his footing perhaps, but I think it was well out the back regardless.
You know, we've talked about it a number of times, but again, Fyshwick looking good until they don't.
It really is that case, because that offense up to that point, really lovely. Good use of the break side.
Yeah. Really strong cutting, particularly from the likes of McManus, to get open, to get position, and to give themselves throwing options on both sides of the field. I think the choice was okay to go for that fat side, but again, the wind.
Hard to get it to sit up when you're throwing downwind, and that was the problem there. Lockie White back on the field with the disc in hand. One of the captains of the Australian Goannas. He backhands it down the line, looking for Stewart.
Oh, McManus looking for a little bit of retribution, doesn't get it. Colony off and running again. Noel, sneaky little throw.
And who does he find?
Surprise, surprise, McClay.
Mark McClay cannot be stopped. 4th goal to his name. He's on a mission to prove something. And is doing a great job of it so far. Fyshwick throwing away another great opportunity. A couple of opportunities, really.
Always find it fascinating looking at the body language of the players as they come on and off the field. And I wonder what percentage of the time you'd be able to pick which team is winning, just purely looking at the body language of the two.
I think it says a lot. I think it says a lot. And right now, as you say, couldn't be more different. Chalk and cheese. Fyshwick got that head down, hunched shoulders look. Colony
smiling, joking, looking very relaxed. And, you know, it's a confidence that they deserve to have because they've played very well this game. A lot of people, I think including yourself, Max, were thinking quarterfinals could be about where this team would get to, especially without the likes of Mike, and obviously they lost Dan Petrov from an injury. He would have been on this team this season, and they've had some big ins as well, but they've come to the business end of the season and they've played their best frisbee, and that's pretty much all you can ask from a team.
They have. They really, really have, yeah. I was maybe sleeping on them a little bit coming in, but they got themselves into the quarterfinal and they got themselves a matchup that is clearly working well for them this game. And they've almost booked their ticket into the semi-finals.
Yeah.
Fyshwick, on the other hand, losing a few key pieces. Manambi Weir in particular dislocating a shoulder at BCI while playing for the Australian Under-24 Blue Bottles. He was a big part of this offense.
Yeah, that's a big loss, isn't it?
It really is. Matthews Hunter manages to find Wallace in the centre, but he can't dig it out. And Jackson not quite being up to full pace hurts them as well. Gann with the disc. He's been undeniable all game, and he goes fat side with the forehand.
He goes for that same shot, but different result, as Evans reads that nicely.
And that's a great example of adjusting to this wind. Usually you'd try and throw that with a lot of touch. In wind like this, he just goes high.
He ripped it, didn't he?
Yep, relies on the blade, just puts it on his chest rather than trying to lead the player out in front.
Yep, backs his receiver in.
And why not when it's Ash Evans? 13-4.
Yeah, and look, I'm not even sure we're going to see Fyshwick score another point in this game. I hope we will. But they've just lost a little bit of drive on that offensive line, and you can understand why. They've been under a fair bit of pressure all game from the Colony defence, and that wears at you for sure. You know, great defence early on in the game really pays dividends as you get to the back end of the game. You know, chinking away at the armour, little taps all the way through the game, and by the time you get to the end, you've exposed the underbelly. And I think that's what we're seeing at the moment, unfortunately, for the Fyshwick team.
The vulnerable underbelly, that's right. They've maybe lost a little bit of confidence in their structures and in each other, and it's showing.
Look, they've still got an opportunity to finish strong. So let's see if they can make this scoreline at least a little bit more respectable.
And coming into that next match, which will probably be their 5 to 8 bracket game, going in with some momentum and some confidence can be crucial.
Definitely. So we see Francis offloading to Jackson. He looks off his cut up the middle. He's not being given a lot. Dancing again from Matthews Hunter, as we spoke of earlier. Guys, he's making Francis work hard for it. He pops it up.
Oh, Sam Shellard goes too early.
Shellard, he's gone up and he's gone again.
Oh, and he's calling a foul.
He's had 2 bites and now he's saying, I'd like a 3rd, please.
I'm not sure about that one. And it'll be retracted.
Retracted, okay. Well, I think it's probably a fair result. We didn't see the replay, but naked eye, it looked like he had more than enough opportunities to bring that one in. Good defensive pressure from Fyshwick. Wow. 2 Colony boys going. As we see Bennett pick it up in the end. Oh, that's a great D. Matthews Hunter. Looked like there was a pick upfield, but didn't impact.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good reward for effort there for Fyshwick. And now they find themselves in a better position. Nice and close. Matthews Hunter puts it up.
Shellard.
And there we go.
Won't make the same mistake twice. Reads that perfectly.
Shellard, very pleasing. That was a nice throw. Noel, the defender, looked a little disappointed with a bit of a cone kick at the end. But I think that was a great choice to throw. There's not a lot the defender could do in that situation, so he's probably been a bit hard on himself.
Yeah, throw out on the break side like that. That's always going to be a tall order for a defender to have a real good bit at. And Shellard, you know, goes up early and takes it strong. Lucy Noel, I mean, he's very fast, but it's a tall order.
It
no
is.
matter who you are. As we get another look at that block from Matthews Hunter. Nicely cut out. Bennett's pass, maybe just a little bit behind his target.
Yeah.
Jackson, the no pivot back end. Opening up the space for Matthews Hunter to put that throw out in front of Shellard.
Yeah, high and out in front. Not much Noel could do there. And thankfully, Fyshwick proved me wrong, score another point.
To take it to 13-5.
All right, well, a chance to see whether, with a big gap, Colony can still be disciplined and efficient with their offensive line. Oh, almost goes behind Latamados there. Very casual from Stewart. Gets it back again. Good pressure early as we see Blakely released on this upwind side of the field. Beautiful throw to the evergreen Dow. And he pops it up. Had a good think about it.
Oh, Mark
surprise,
McClay.
surprise, McClay. Latamados puts it out wide.
It's a goal for Xavier Black.
Black scores. That was easy, wasn't it, in the end?
It really was, and you can see Fyshwick's defense has started to take the foot off a little bit.
They were really strong up this end of the field, though. They sort of pinned them back with those first 4 or 5 passes down near their own end zone. Then you see Blakely get released on this upwind side here. Beautiful continuation down to Dowell, and then he had a bit of a think about it for a while, Ant Dowell, there, as to whether he was going to pop that one up, but there was plenty of space. It wasn't the best throw, but you've got McClay on the end of it. You're pretty confident.
Yeah, look, McClay's having a screamer, and sometimes you've got to back the hot player in, the one that's having a great game, and that's exactly what Dowell did.
And just like that, Colony find themselves one break away from a semi-final berth.
They'll be very happy with that situation. This one's turning into a relatively short one for them, so it'll give them plenty of time to rest before the next match. And Fyshwick, however, will be heading into that 5 to 8 bracket. They finished 6th last year, so still with the potential to outdo that if they do well in that bracket.
And I think given a lot of their changes, as you've said, that they'd probably be reasonably happy with that, with a 5th place finish. I think they'd call that a moderately successful season, would you say?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, maybe before the season started they had high hopes, knowing that Jackson was coming back this year and a few other players were just going to be getting better. But as we said, a few key names went out, including Tom McCallum early in the season. And then this tournament, a couple of injuries in Matthew Hudson and Nick Hodson has hurt them. So 5th, they'd be very happy. Jackson now just a couple of metres out. Francis, he loves a high lefty backhand, as we see there, and Wallace passes it straight back.
Nice.
Fyshwick.
Well, Fyshwick's saying to Colony, you got to score it to win it.
That's right. We're not going to give it to you. And Colony's O-line will go do exactly that, I'm sure, this next point. So this will lead into semi-finals for the men on the other side of the bracket. The games are still underway. So as those results creep in, we'll get a better sense of who will be meeting who and where. And on the women's side of the tournament, it's do or die time for capital punishment from Auckland, New Zealand, and for GWS Blaze as they meet in the game to go for the semi-finals.
That's right, and we saw this morning that the Ellipsis team stay now as the only undefeated team in the women's draw. 15-9 win over Manly. Pretty close early, pulled away at the end there. So they're playing a game now against Rogue that if they win, they'll go to the top position, play whoever comes in there. Rogue would have to win by a lot of points to change that up at all.
Yeah, Ellipsis actually went down 2 or 3 early in that match, coming out a little
3-0,
slow.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, the 8:30 a.m. start, maybe not what they're quite used to, but once they woke up, they looked very good. And Peter Blakely, his signature inside-out forehand, and what a way to finish. Who else would catch the winning goal in this match other than Mark McClay?
So appropriate.
5 goals to his name this match. 5 assists for Peter Blakely. Those two had an absolute screamer, and when those two are on fire, nigh on impossible to stop.
Well, we expected that Colony would go in as the favourites in this game. They've showed they deserved that favouritism. And look, probably for me that scoreline's even a little bit bigger than I was expecting. I thought the Fyshwick team might sort of hover around 8 or 9. And there we have it.
But Colony just too good. And I mean, what I found interesting in that game as well, obviously Mark McClay going huge, but generally speaking, Colony spreading out the workload. Coming in, looking at this team, you might go, oh, they're just going to rely on Alex Ladomatos for everything. He's going to drive
He'll hit Blakely.
Yeah,
that'll be it.
And that'll be it. And sure, he did a lot behind the disc for them, but it didn't feel like he was ever having to shoulder the offense by himself or generate the defensive turns by coming across to the other line. Every player contributed, and that's what's going to help this team do well in later games, but also stay fresh and share the workload across all those sets of legs. So, as we said, Colony booked themselves a ticket to the semi-finals. We'll be streaming those semi-finals, so don't go anywhere. So we've been bringing you live action from the Australian Ultimate Championships here in Townsville, Queensland. I've been Max Stenstrom. Been joined by Kylie O'Brien. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Alti.tv